Hey there friends, today I have a video concerning hope and a dope.
But first, guys, go check out my friends CMMG at cmmg.com. You've probably seen a lot of their firearms on my show. Awesome finishes. You can do some really cool stuff with them. A lot of different types of weapons along with caliber selections. But they have a really cool thing going on right now called the mystery box. All of this stuff you see right here came in one of their mystery boxes. This is the mid-level mystery box that I got. You can use my code FTATF for a 10% off anywhere on that website. Again, FTATF will get you 10% off. Check them out, cmmg.com.
As you guys know, Friday, Governor Michelle Grisham issued an emergency order temporarily suspending open and concealed carry laws, as if she can do that, in Albuquerque and the county for the next 30 days. Well, the sheriff of the county, John Allen, announced that he has reservations, quote, unquote, regarding an order from the governor. He went on to state that while I understand and appreciate the urgency, the temporary ban challenges the foundation of our Constitution, which I swore an oath to uphold. He continued, I am wary of placing my duties in positions that could lead to civil liability conflicts, as well as potential risks posed by prohibiting law-abiding citizens from their constitutional right to self-defense. Now, I just did a series of video interviews of 5 of these 6 candidates for Calcasieu Parish Sheriff here in Louisiana, and one of the things that I discussed with them that it seemed like a couple of them and maybe most of them got a little bit perplexed on was the very fact that they swore, at least in the state of Louisiana, you swear an oath to the Constitution and then the law, right? It's one oath, but it specifically states the Constitution and laws. Well, the laws come from the Constitution. And one of the things that I pointed out to these candidates was you can actually violate the Constitution while enforcing a law. They are not interchangeable. They are not the same. This sheriff understands that. This is a perfect example of how a sheriff should operate. When a sheriff realizes that a law that is put in place, now this is an executive order, so it's not officially a law, but the governor could make this a law, quote unquote, in the state of New Mexico. So this sheriff understands that an executive order and a law is not part of the Constitution. So he realizes that executive orders and laws can violate the Constitution. So you can take an oath to both, but the Constitution will always supersede any unconstitutional law. So kudos to the sheriff for doing that. Now, in a related note, I'd like to point out that, you know, our little friend, the high school dropout from Parkland, David Hogg, who dropped out of school and tried to make a lot of money on his pyramid scheme in the anti-gun business. Well, he's also a plagiarizer. In his haste to apparently gain favor with some of the pro-gun people, because you'll remember he went out shooting here recently and acted like, hey, I'm a gun guy. He posted on Twitter, after CNN Politics posted about this wacko New Mexico governor's unconstitutional decree, CNN stated, New Mexico's governor orders suspension of open and concealed carry of guns in Albuquerque, declaring gun violence and drug abuse a public health emergency after a string of recent deadly shootings. David Hogg responded, retweeted, saying, I support gun safety, but there is no such thing as a state public health emergency exception to the United States Constitution. Sounds great, right? I mean, honestly, a lot of people, when they saw that the first time, they were like, wow, this is crazy. Wasn't expecting this from this little worm. I mean, he's very anti-gun, very anti-Constitution. Never heard the guy cite the Constitution because everything he spews the rhetoric for is anti-Constitution. But when I looked a little bit further, guess what? He actually stole this phrase. Notice that the time on his post is at 3:07 p.m. on September 9th. Ted Lieu, an anti-gun Democrat out of the state of California, posted at 2:20 p.m. on the same day, roughly about an hour, not quite an hour, ahead of David Hogg's post. I support gun safety laws. However, this order from the governor of New Mexico violates the U.S. Constitution. No state in the Union can suspend the federal Constitution. And then word for word, there is no such thing as a state public health emergency exception to the U.S. Constitution. See that last sentence? There is no such thing as a state public health emergency exception to the U.S. Constitution. Looks like David Hogg is now trying to claim that that's his words and they are not his words. Clearly, Ted Lieu posted this about 50 minutes earlier than David Hogg. So David Hogg is a dropout, a liar, an unconstitutional hack, and now he's a thief. You may be thinking, this is just a post. Well, you know what he could have done? he could have retweeted Ted Lieu's post because he was almost citing Ted Lieu's tweet word for word. But instead, he picked and he chose what he wanted out of Ted Lieu's comment and just forwarded and retweeted the CNN Politics article or post. So that is clear-cut violation of any kind of integrity if you're doing something like this. If he wasn't trying to be the face of an organization like he's trying to be, then it probably wouldn't matter. Nobody would care. But I care because this guy is trying to represent a movement, and clearly this movement is dishonest. I mean, he could have reworded that statement in a number of different ways where no one would have ever assumed that he had stolen this from Ted Lieu. But when he uses the exact same words at the beginning of his post and the end of his post, clearly he has stolen this and he has not given Ted Lieu any credit. Even if he would have tagged Ted Lieu in his post, it would have made me think he's giving him credit. But he didn't do that because he's trying to take credit for this because he's trying to appear smart. Remember, he's a dropout. He got kind of an honorary thing over at Harvard, so he didn't really get into Harvard, which... Don't get me started on Harvard. Harvard is the bottom of the barrel now. These are not, don't put the faith that you would normally put into these Ivy League schools anymore. But nevertheless, he got a free pass at Harvard. So this kid, I think he's got a guilty conscience and he feels bad knowing that he dropped out, got a free ride in college, and people view him as stupid. And this is just a further example of that he's a dumb kid. He can't even come up with a simple 2-sentence paragraph that is his own. That's an original thought of his own. So it makes me wonder how many of his other posts out there that he's plagiarized from other people in the past. This one was just painfully obvious to me.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's so